Hi, everybody, and welcome back as always. I appreciate you giving me your time. So, today I want to steer away from my usual format and I want to ask you some questions. I was thinking of making this video a premiere so that we can watch it together and discuss, but as I do not have a dedicated quiet space and have frequent interruptions, I think it would be rather difficult. So we'll do that another time, and instead I'll undertake to read every comment below this video and perhaps respond in a second video. Okay, now all of you here know that my main content revolves around the royal family and the Harkles, but I have said this in many of my older videos. For me, it's not about Harry and Meghan as individuals. It is not about Charles or anybody else as individuals. I do not know any of them personally. I have never shared space or been in a private conversation with them. My interests are in truth, justice, fairness, and long term effects and results. I do not care what designer clothes Megan wears, or quite frankly, how much she has paid for it. I am more concerned about where she is getting the money from, particularly because to date I have not seen her produce anything which will earn her enough to warrant her lifestyle. We know they have not as yet received the full amount of the millions from their Netflix or Spotify deals as put out in the media. We know that Meghan's book did not bring in millions, as we also know she bought about 4,000 copies of her own book, which she handed out like sweeties to poor innocent children and famous celebrity friends. We know that bond or mortgage repayment, staff, maintenance, private jets, etc., must cost them hundreds of thousands monthly. We saw the prices of her outfit. Where is it coming from? Who is backing them? Because it is clear that somebody is. For a long time, I suspected that the royal family, or Charles or Clarence House, are still funding them in a roundabout, underhanded way, maybe through contacts and charities. And although I have not found anything to 100% prove it, I have also not found anything to disprove it. However, if it is not the royal family or Charles, then who? I watched a video recently on Tucker Carlson speaking about George Soros, and I'm honestly mad at myself for not copying the link so you could all go and watch it. But if I find it again, I will. Now, I'm not saying Soros or his open society are funding the Harkles, but I think it is rather important that we start thinking along those lines, because no matter who it is, the bigger question would be why? Let's say, for argument's sake, Charles is somehow still funding them. Then it would mean that he is taking millions of pounds out of circulation in Britain, a country which now has its highest inflation rate in 40 years. Let's say it is George Soros or the Clintons or Klaus Schwab or the United Nations or even Oprah. Well, we know it's not Oprah, but at this point we are just throwing random names out, okay? Well, whoever it is, why would they do so? Is somebody funding them to destabilize the British monarchy and then, in effect, the British government? Because if the monarchy is taken out, then Britain will have to reconsider or consider a whole new and very different form of government. And any new form of government takes years to settle in, for a lack of a better word or term. The other alternative is that Meghan and Harry are skimming off their charitable endeavors, but even that does not make sense to me. I told you last year that something does not add up for me. In the last book year, Archwell Foundation had an income of less than $50,000, according to records submitted for tax purposes. However, remember how they just handed Melba $25,000, paid for a lunch cart, and then lunches for some volunteering veterans, donated to have a women's shelter's roof repaired, etc., etc. The list goes on, and the maths do not tally. Now, again, I don't know for a fact how much money is coming into the Archwell Foundation or from where it is coming, because neither you nor I have full access to detailed statements. However, like in the other scenarios mentioned, this is what is indeed important, because if this is the case, then there are repercussions for those who put their trust in the Harpools. So my question to you is, who do you think are funding Harry and Meghan, or at least supporting them, and why? Or do you think that Harry and Meghan are supporting themselves? I mean, with $1 million estate, private jet flights, designer clothing, top-notch staff, and PR companies. If that is what you believe, then how do you think they are doing and achieving this? Okay, so in one of my previous videos, I talked a little about how the war between Russia and Ukraine influenced my country. I told you about rising fuel costs, imports, exports, trade agreements, etc. More recently, I mentioned my concern about China, Taiwan, and the United States fleeting me. And once again, I'm not here to talk politics or take sides. It is not my niche, and definitely not the theme of this channel. But there are things that I read which I find very odd, and search as I may, I cannot find any answer to my questions. So now I am turning to you. I, like I'm sure many of you, have seen the devastation in Ukrainian cities, the thousands of Ukrainians fleeing the country. We have seen the end result of bombs and rockets, the smoke, the debris, and bodies retrieved from the ruins. However, what I have also seen are these celebrities visiting the Ukraine, politicians and others visiting the Ukraine in their droves, being filmed and photographed without appearing to actually fear for their lives. And now there is even the matter of the Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky and his wife's photo shoot with Vogue. I just don't get it. I fail to understand how anyone can glamorize a war. I fail to understand how a fashion magazine staff can or will travel to a war-torn country, particularly if and when the war is still ongoing. Can someone please explain to me what is going on? But of course, that is not where it ends. And as with so much else, Harry and Meghan had to have themselves drawn into the fray. So I'm looking at a headline from the Telegraph which reads, Prince Harry called after my Russian kidnap hell, and now I am inspired again. Now, I have read about Yulia Payevska and her connection to Harry and Invictus before, and I read this article with interest, and some things do not compute well for me. It is said Yulia served as a volunteer paramedic on the front line and that she was captured by the Russians when she rushed to save victims of the Mariupol theater bombing in March. It is said she was held captive for 3 months before she was exchanged for another prisoner and, of course, an amount of money. Okay, guys, now I just want you to keep up with me and keep the dates in mind, etc., etc. The bombing of the theatre took place on the 16th of March 2022. If she was held captive for 3 months, that means she was released more or less mid-June. According to her, Harry called her a week after her release. According to her, she was injured during a previous evacuation and had to have titanium hip replacements, and she has thyroid problems and asthma. According to her, she will take part in the Warrior Games in a few weeks and will take part in Invictus next year. I went and read up about her a little. She served in the Ukrainian army as the head of a military hospital from 2018 to 2020, when, according to reports, she was immobilized. So I assume that that is when she had the injury and the hip operation. It is then said that she worked as a volunteer medic and that she documented her work in early 2022 during the siege of Mariupol with a body camera and then smuggled the video out with the help of international reporters on March 15th. In other words, the very day before she was captured. It is said that her capture prevented her from taking part in the 2022 Invictus Games in The Hague, but that her daughter took part in her place and won a bronze medal in archery. Now, guys, something does not sound quite right to me. Firstly, a titanium hip replacement does not leave you disabled, unless, of course, you are of a certain age and have certain other problems. There are, though, a certain amount of things you should not do to keep the implant safe, like don't lean forward when sitting, don't pick up something from the floor while sitting, don't bring your knee up higher than your hip, and so on and so on. However, I do not see how this qualifies her as a disabled veteran. And then her daughter took part in Invictus in her place. Now, what disability does her daughter have? I'm truly asking, as I cannot find anything to answer my questions. The next thing is, how did Ukrainians, and in particular Yulia's daughter, travel to The Hague to take part in Invictus during the worst of the bombing and war, and where did they travel from? With the war still ongoing, how are they traveling to the Warrior Games, which will be held on August the 19th until August the 28th at Walt Disney World near Orlando? So the Russians are just going to let them fly out and come back. Apparently so, as other celebrities had been seen to be flying in and out of Ukraine, I guess. I just don't get it. And what about the money being spent on these flights and trips for these athletes? Yes, it is sad that Yulia was basically a prisoner of war for 3 months, but isn't it sort of expected if or when someone smuggles sensitive footage from a war zone or country at war? And who paid for her release? She said Harry phoned her a week after her release. How did Harry know that she was released? Who told him? Where did he phone to? Who is Harry getting this kind of information from? Okay, guys, maybe your newspapers and magazines tell you a lot more than mine does. Maybe I'm searching in the wrong places, but something does not compute well for me. But maybe I'm just a little paranoid by now. So you see, guys, I may talk about Harry and Meghan and their shenanigans, often flippantly and with a giggle. But in reality, I don't give a damn how many times a day Harry has a crap or whether he is happy in his marriage or not. So, if you guys can answer some of my questions, I'm asking you nicely, please do so in the comment section or email me on bookwormonthecase@gmail.com, and please reference this video in the title of your email. I'm still busy with that video on Megan's previous relationships, friendships, and liaisons, but there are a few things not readily available in the media which I am a little puzzled about. So I'm waiting for a few answers. Okay, guys, now that is it from me for today. I thank you once again for being here, and until we meet again on the next video, please take good care of yourselves. Bye.